iHub Radio, reinventing talk radio in the Coachella Valley. Homemade for the rest of us. Live from Palm Springs, the intersection of arts, entertainment, and the desert scene. This is The Culture Corner with Bonnie Gilgallen.
And good Saturday afternoon to you, and welcome to The Culture Corner on iHub Radio. Hope everybody's hanging in there with this stay-at-home order, and I know it's getting warmer outside, but I just hope that everyone stays patient and thinks of the bigger picture and wearing masks out to stores and when you're in public. It's not all about each of us individually. It's about the whole of humanity in our community and making sure everyone stays safe and healthy. We got to just hang in there and stay patient, and this will end at some point. But the more inward you can look and think about this as a time to be quiet and pursue other creative projects, get closer to your family, etc. will help. So obviously the Culture Corner, normally we talk a lot about live events and plays and musical performances and that kind of thing. Obviously there's not a lot of that going on right now, so we're kind of shifting our focus a little bit, and we want to talk about how people are handling this pandemic and these stay-at-home orders and how they're doing with it. And I wanted to talk today to a professional, a mental health professional, about how maybe some tips on how we can do that. So we have Carolyn Redmond joining us today, who is a family therapist. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, hanging in there. So tell people just a little bit about you and your practice, and then we'll get into some tips you have for people.
Okay. Well, I am a licensed marriage and family psychotherapist, and I work right here in Palm Springs, and I deal with folks that suffer from anxiety, depression, agoraphobia, and relationship issues, addiction issues. And unfortunately, we live in a world today where things are a little bit more heightened. Feelings and emotions and anxiety is heightened.
Mm-hmm. So are you seeing a lot of your patients getting more agitated and anxious and having more issues with family issues and addiction? Are you seeing that in the last 2 months or so?
Absolutely. People, we live in a very uptight, productive, get-it-done society. And with this pandemic, people have had to really stop and change their lives around. And, of course, that has meant an additional bit of depression and anxiety. Sadly to say, there's been a rise in domestic violence and people trying to cope with being suffering from cabin fever, if you will. People are restless. They want to get out and they want to go back to their normal lives. But at this point, it's a pretty tricky situation to do that. So people are having to take a look at their lives, deal with anxiety and stress, and change their lifestyles a little bit until this passes.
And so what kinds of advice, do you have some specific tips for people? Let's break it down specifically. Let's talk about relationships, adult one-on-one marriages, partners, those kinds of relationships. When you have this much togetherness, so they're not going off to a job or going off to private time or out with the guys or whatever. What advice do you have for couples in particular on how to weather this particular time we're in?
Well, the first thing I would say, and this is generally speaking, not only to couples, but, to, any kind of relationships in general. And the first thing is acceptance, that anxiety is okay. And we need to kind of normalize it. People are scared, and to allow, couples to be able to express what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and to give them the assurance that things eventually are going to be okay, and it's okay to have the feelings that they're experiencing. We live in a world of uncertainty, and and especially during this time, things are even more uncertain. And to be honest, this whole pandemic has put everybody in touch with either consciously or unconsciously our mortality. And that can kind of make anxiety increase. But to be able to express our anxiety and to be able to talk about it, and also to point out how people are capable of handling anxiety, because just living a life is anxious, and people have found ways of handling it. And so to encourage people that they can handle this as well. And another thing is also being patient and compassionate to ourselves. Because if we beat ourselves up, we're adding another layer of feelings, and that worsens the anxiety that people also are feeling because of this pandemic. So I think it's a matter of just, accepting it. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling upset, and allowing, our partners or husbands or wives to be able to listen with compassion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that's one of the things that, even without a pandemic, is stuffing feelings down or not allowing yourself to feel them or denying them. That causes a whole lot of problems, including addiction, right?
Absolutely. I also wanted to mention practical solutions to this. As a therapist, I have encouraged my clients that if they're feeling particularly anxious, that they're more than welcome to call what I call for check-in calls. For them, I just want to check in and get a little bit of assurance. And like I said, listening, allowing people to express their thoughts and feelings, both good and bad, and to just give people that space of okayness, that they're okay, even if they're feeling very, very anxious.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I know I've tried to balance this feeling every now and then, because we're all at home and not going out to either jobs or whatever, is this feeling of I have to get 10 things done today. I have to get XYZ done today since I'm at home, or it's a failed day. Is that sometimes you have to just take some time and just be and relax and go sit outside and look at the trees? Or have you found that with your patients too?
Absolutely. I mean, as horrible as this pandemic is, and it is, it's horrible. We've lost a lot of lives and people have gotten sick, but it's almost like there could be some, divine intervention saying, hey, stop, take a look at how we're living our lives, because we live in a very do-oriented society, and we need to step back and simply allow ourselves to be, like you suggested, being able to go out in nature, where there's no people around, and just look at the beauty. This desert really is a beautiful place. The trees and the flowers that bloom, and just taking time and looking at nature. And I think that the idea is also, like being at home, getting reacquainted with one another as a family, for parents, particularly in raising their children, for helping the children to feel safe. And that would mean of course, parents have to kind of regulate their own anxiety when they're relating to their children, but
Right.
yet at the same time allowing children to have a time to be able to express, maybe playing games with your kids. There is a really cute story I heard about a neighborhood where this man and his family were sitting outside, and the kids they must have heard coyotes in the background, and the coyotes were howling or whatever, and so the kids started howling. Then the parents started howling, and their neighbors who were with them, everybody started howling, and there was a kind of kind of fun in just doing that, letting themselves just be and enjoying nature and participating in nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was going to ask you about kids because I know kids are home from school. Parents are homeschooling. So again, it's that same sometimes it feels like too much togetherness, being cooped up, and kids are scared. I can't imagine as an adult, we're scared. Kids have got to be scared about this whole thing. How do you address kids' fears about what's happening now?
I think, kids, they're intuitive. Kids are very, very intuitive. They're very bright. And I think, like adults, they need a space to be able to say, gee, this is really scary. And to know that it's okay to be scary. Right. Because I think we as adults are nothing but big kids. We've just had more life experience. But in human nature, despite our culture, our racial backgrounds, our religious backgrounds, we're all really the same. We all get afraid. And when things are uncertainty and when, life is threatened, we get scared. And to allow kids to be able to express their feelings, either verbally talking, they can be creative, have them do art, incorporate music into it, like having kids listen to specific songs that they like and get them to talk about what it is about the song that attracts them, that they like, and like with the younger kids, art is really great for that kind of thing, and have them draw, the big bad scary thing, and maybe create a story around that, how I don't know, like a big superhero comes and conquers it,
right.
in a way to allow kids to be able to be very creative. And let them use their imagination, because not only in this kind of a situation, but generally speaking, children are so doggone creative and they're so intuitive. And I think the child in all of us, that's where our creativity and our zest for life comes. And to encourage that with children and give them a lot of assurance that it's okay to be scared, And also another piece in this, too, is children automatically, in a way, know how to problem solve. They go to school, and kids meet all kinds of issues in school, and they learn how to deal with them. And to invite kids to talk about how they've dealt with a specific problem, because I think that kind of moves towards, kind of a solution-focused kind of therapy, if you will, which empowers them.
Yeah.
It empowers them to go, hey, I handled getting that failing grade. I didn't run away, and or whatever it is that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Well, I encourage, I think everybody, and I think you would too, if you're really having a serious issue that you do want to reach out, whether it's either initially to a partner or friend or to someone professional. So, Carolyn, how would you want to give a website or something? If somebody's feeling anxious and might want to start, has never talked to a therapist before, do you want to give some contact information for yourself for somebody?
I'd be more than happy to. I'll give you both my information. My website is on Homestead. I think it's called homestead.com, and you just look up Caroline Redmond. And also, I work in a wonderful place here in Palm Springs called the Center for Counseling and Education. Okay. And we are open. It's right on Tockwitz, and we've got a good staff of people. And I would be more than happy, anything I can do to help comfort people and have them come in and talk. So,
Super.
Local talk that's moving the needle. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's on the Culture Corner with Bonnie G.
And we are back on the Culture Corner. And right now, I want to talk to, I have a lot of actor, singer, dancer, musician, director friends in the Valley. And of course, we're all in the same boat. Nobody's really doing live performances. Some people are doing live streams. But my friend Doug Graham, who is a fabulous dancer, actor, dance teacher, etc., and in great shape. And he's always hiking out there, working out. And he puts these great pictures on Facebook. So I wanted to talk to him about how he stays in shape both mentally and physically during this crazy time. Hey, Doug, how are you?
Hey, Bonnie. Hello, my dear. Good to talk to you.
How are you? And how are you staying? I mean, you're first of all, you're in great shape. But I know you're a big workout guy in addition to being a dancer. So what advice would you have for people to stay both, in shape physically, not just sit around and watch TV all day since we're all in the house, and also mentally and emotionally? How are you doing that?
Well, number one, Bonnie, if we had to be anywhere, this city, this little town is a blessing. You look at all these people who are trapped in their little coffins of apartments in New York and the big cities, and they can't get out. And we have the whole nature vista with the mountains and the desert for us to take advantage of. Wow. And honestly, for me, it's a total choice. I could choose to be, we're in quarantine and we're trapped and we can't be where all lives were. Or we can choose to have what it is now and make a decision to be happy and to be proactive. So what I actually have to make a list every day of things that I want to get done. Mm-hmm. And one of those is actually two of them is always something with the physical body. And it's either my backyard workout, and I've discovered the joy of hiking, as you've seen from my Facebook post, which I am obsessed with now. There's so much beauty. They just opened the Indian Canyons last week. They were closed before.
Right.
So they open at 8 o'clock. It's $9 for non-seniors, $7 for seniors, and it's free for vets. And it opens at 8 o'clock, and it's just, that's where I discovered this Murray Canyon Trail with the waterfalls. But for me, sometimes I do it by myself. I take a meditative hike and just enjoy the nature around me and just breathe in the blessings of everything that this gives us. And sometimes it's with a friend who we walk at a safe distance, and my roommate Steve and I, of course, don't have to do that. So that's the physical part, and I always get my workout in, and it's amazing what you can do with a set of cables, and I have a set of dumbbells. I've heard they're kind of hard to get these days, but there's always ways you can do home workouts, and just be creative. Even if you have soup cans, you can make them dumbbells,
Yeah.
So that's the physical part. Creatively, I am still able to, I practice my voice and sing, and I teach my dance class once a week on Zoom tomorrow, actually at 10 o'clock. If you can find it on my Facebook page if you want to take a dance class with me for free. And it's a little advanced beginner, but that's something that's fun to do. It keeps your brain working and your body going.
Absolutely.
So
are a lot of people taking that online, virtually?
Yeah, I have around 15 to 20 who are popping on. Even a couple of gals from Austria are coming on to take my class. So it's a lot of fun.
Wow, that's great.
I know, right? Yeah.
And so
I offered that.
I'm sorry. So mentally, I would guess that both the physicality is always important. So getting out there and hiking in nature and your dance, staying creative and teaching your dance class, that all lends itself to positive mental health during all this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if we're not physical, we're going to be. It all works together. If we can't be physical, then we can't be happy because we're meant to move. Even if you just put on some music and dance, just let your body move to the music. Let it express. It's dying to move and express itself, and that's a great way to let go of pent-up energy and anger and maybe even just joy. So just putting on some dance music and dancing. So it's all tied together. And I'm using this as an introspective time, too, because I just started a 3-month spiritual course on quantum physics and spirituality and metaphysics, and so that also intrigues me. And I'm starting my book, which I've been sitting on forever, about my life and tips to create whatever you want in your life. So it's been it was almost a blessing.
That's what I found too. It's been such a time for creative. Yeah, any projects. If you're someone that has a book, you want to write a book, or you want to paint, or you want to do any of those personal creative things that we all say, well, I don't have time. Well, now you do.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know about Masterclass? That they advertise it all the time, where you can get lessons from the masters.
What is that? Where is that? Where can you find that?
Okay.
I've seen it.
Very simple. Masterclass.com. If you pay, it's $180, but you get a free one to give to somebody else. So if you find somebody you want to split it with, Honey, this is like a wealth. Like every course is like has so much content in it. It comes with workbooks, and you can find your way into a whole new creative way of expressing. It's amazing.
Wow.
So it's definitely worth it. Yeah.
So tell me, when is your dance class that you teach again, Doug?
It's tomorrow. You can find my link for Zoom on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Doug Graham. Okay. And just pop on, and there's no password. I'll just pop you in, and you know, I'll never be able to see you, so you can make as many mistakes as you want and dance like nobody's watching because nobody is.
And is this a kind of a beginner's? Is this beginners like jazz, or what kind of dance is it?
It's theater jazz. So right now we're working on a classic piece that's almost Fosse-like. It's got different levels. It's probably more of an advanced beginner to intermediate class. Okay. So it's definitely not for bare beginners. Okay. But if somebody has some experience, I have different levels aboard.
All right. Well, Doug Graham, thank you so much. Continue out there. Keep hiking and sending us those great Facebook pictures because they're fabulous. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Local talk that's moving the needle. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's on the Culture Corner with Bonnie G.
And back on the Culture Corner on iHub Radio, and we're now joined by somebody I admire so much, Miss Rose Millette, who is a fabulous vocalist. She's a jazz diva in the desert, and also a very, very spiritual and grounded person. I admire her for both of those things. Hi, Rose. How are you?
I'm good, Bonnie. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. So I wanted to talk to you about two specific things. First of all, I want to tell us a little bit about your live stream. You're one of the performers who is doing these Facebook live stream concerts, and you do, I think, both Tuesday and Saturday, because those were your regular nights. Tuesday, I believe, at the Purple Room, and Saturday at Vicky's, right? Was your normal schedule during the season, right?
That is correct, right.
So tell us about the live streams, and have you had fun doing that? Have you had any challenges doing that?
Well, you know, I admit that I started it because, as you mentioned, the Tuesday and Saturday gigs, you know, I suddenly found myself in a position I didn't have purpose to, like, prepare for the week or get dressed and go, you know, because I lived 50 miles away from Purple Room and 69 miles away from Vicky's, so it would always require a certain regiment to get ready, like 2 hours. To shower, bathe, and get dressed, and then another hour to get there. So, you know, I no longer had that to as inspiration to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. And I found myself in a really, really sad place, and I needed something to motivate me. So then that's how Home Serenade became, and that's how I started it.
Mm-hmm. And how do you decide now? How long is, because people do different. Some people do 5 songs, 6 songs, half an hour. How long do you usually do?
Well, my initial goal is, you know, I call it a musical snack. You know, mm-hmm. I don't want to have it a long, like an hour show, like a formalized show. So I initially say 30 minutes because beyond 30 minutes, it can get into overkill. So, but most often I never adhere to it. It usually winds up being approximately 45 minutes. So I kind of like judge the number of songs by the minutes that they are. Most often it's about anywhere between 4 and 5 and sometimes 6, but I don't want it to go that long. I don't want it to become a bore.
Mm-hmm. And now, do you choose, because you're using tracks right now, when you do these home serenades, do you choose songs from a different perspective than you just put together a set if you were actually at the Purple Room?
In a sense, I kind of do, because now a lot of the things, of course, people have heard already, the standards. Mm-hmm. And then there are songs that I have never done but have always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But for some reason or another, what a lot of people don't understand, if they're really not in the business, we have to pay people oftentimes to create charts and play for us. So mm-hmm. and to create tracks. So And so a lot of things don't get done because of that. You sometimes just don't have the finances.
Right.
So there are a lot of things on that are tracks that are available that I've never done before. So I'm trying to push myself outside my comfort zone. And admittedly, I don't have a lot of them memorized, but it's just the opportunity to do songs that I've never done before, but that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. That's super. So what do you so would you consider yourself basically a jazz vocalist?
Yes, that's my genre of preference, because what jazz allows me to do is improvise. If it's something that's classic and it's, or I should say a standard, it puts me in a box. If I can't improvise, then I'm boring to myself even. So, yeah, and even when I sing popular songs, they become jazz songs.
Right. Okay.
Just because of my style.
And now, do you scat a little bit, don't you?
Oh, I love to scat.
Yeah.
I love to scat.
I think we talked about this one time before when I had you live in the studio. It's something that I once had this argument with somebody. I think it was Mike Costley, actually. He's wonderful. And he said, well, anybody can scat. You can teach anybody to scat. And I said, I suppose you could teach them the mechanics of it, but I think that you have to have a certain feeling for it or affinity for it to come across effectively. I don't scat because I don't feel comfortable doing it. I don't think it's something that I do well, so I don't do it. But I love hearing other people do it. So what's your feeling about that?
Well, I partially yes and partially no on what you said, because now how I started, I love the idea of scatting, but I couldn't either. I may have had just a couple of syllables that I knew how to do, and it shows that the limitations. So, and we did talk about this before. I created an exercise for myself to put different syllables together with different consonants in the beginning of the vowels, and I just went through a bunch from A to Z. I did that, and I started practicing those vowels and consonants together to see how they would sound melodically. And after a while, just like anything, it becomes, natural.
Yeah. Can you give me just a real short example? I hate to put you on the spot, but just give me of your exercise of how you did that in the beginning.
Yeah. So, for instance, it's like using the consonant B with the vowel A, E, I, O, baby, Bibo, boo, and then the same thing with the letter D, day, dee, di, do, do.
Okay.
L, same thing, and then it becomes
okay.
It becomes a sentence almost, but it's all about consonants before the vowel. And linking those things together.
Okay, well, that makes total sense. I love that. And, I might one of these days just play around with it. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm ever going to do it because, again, I feel intimidated by it, and it doesn't feel I love hearing people that do it well. It's great to hear people that do it well. But I'm glad. But I might try that one day. I might sit down on my own and just mess around with it. But anyway,
just mess around, and it doesn't come overnight. So the idea is like with anything, we just have to practice it.
Yeah. Oh, do you have a go-to song, that's your Back of the Purple Room or the Vicky's, whatever, and or you get up at some special occasion and say, Rose, we want you to sing. Do you have a go-to song or one or two that you always are your fail-safe tunes?
Well, I will tell you, I think the most requested songs are At Last, Summertime, Girl from Ipanema, and The Blues.
Okay. Now, do you ever get tired of doing those three titles? Do you ever get tired of doing them?
I think listeners who come to see me with any kind of regularity get tired of them.
No, but do you?
Do I?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes I do need a change. Yeah. And then so I'll put it on the set list at the bottom saying only if requested.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So I want to switch gears for a second because one of the things I really admire most about you is you are a very spiritually evolved person and grounded person. And I've seen that talking to you in person, but on Facebook also. How are you? I mean, this time that we're in now and this pandemic and the stay-at-home thing, I think it's forcing people to take a look inward and if they haven't had any spiritual connection, maybe think about developing one, because I think that's one of the things that's getting people through. How are you finding that right now?
I am. As I mentioned at the top of the program, I was beginning to feel rather sad. I don't care how evolved and enlightened a person can be. We're all subject to periods of either sadness and in some measure, if not terribly so, but a certain amount of depression even. So, but the only thing that gets you above and beyond that space is your deep-seated faith. Now, whether that comes from, I don't know, Allah, God, Buddha, whomever.
Right.
As long as the basic is about loving yourself, because you can't help anybody if you don't love yourself first. And if you don't have that deep-seated thought planted in your heart, you don't have anything to pull yourself up out of the doldrums with. So, like I said, I say these things too. I often say this to other people when I'm not feeling my best, because to let people know that there's nothing wrong with them if they're not feeling good.
Right.
We all go through those periods, but the winning thought is I am and I can. And you can overcome anything. And a lot of that has to do with fear. And there's fear, what was that saying? Fear itself. The only thing to fear is fear itself.
Right. Have you been, one thing that it's one of the tough parts of this pandemic that we're in is, and of course, it's being very politicized, and I don't want to get into that, but one of the things that sadly, it seems to be revealing with a lot of people is selfishness. I mean, this whole what's going on right now, it's really kind of, if you're really somebody that's selfish and self-centered and thinking only of you rather than the bigger picture, it's really kind of manifesting itself in the midst of this whole thing. Have you seen that? Has that been sad for you to see, or are you surprised by it at all?
I'm really not surprised at it, only because we're all wired differently. And I had the thought today even to think that I don't expect everybody to think like I do. The only thing that I require of people in this time of difference, when people think that it might be selfish, that we not lower ourselves into the judgmental name calling.
Right.
Because people are going to make their own decision as to who they want to be and what they want to do. So from that, I always just say it's the perfect place to be in the bleachers and observe who is who and who it is that you want to identify with in character and in action. Beyond that, everybody's on their own. I'm not really surprised, but it can be disheartening. But what can I do about it? All I can do is control my space. I can't control anybody else's space, nor their thoughts.
Do you have a if you want to share it, any kind of ritual? Do you meditate every day, or do you have any kind of ritual or mantra or anything that kind of keeps you in that positive sort of spiritual space when things are tough?
Back in 1986, I was introduced to transcendental meditation.
Okay.
So I have not necessarily on a daily basis. There are times, there's an ebb and a flow. Sometimes it's every day for a week or two, and then I fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
And then it might be once every month, whatever it is, and then I'll get an inspiration to go out. So I can't say that it's a
Thank you, Rose. I'm sorry.
A regiment.
One at a time. Thank you, Rosemont. I love you. Thank you so much for your spiritual guidance and your singing. We'll be back on the Culture Corner in just a bit.
Local talk that's moving the needle. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's on the Culture Corner with Bonnie G.
And we are back on the Culture Corner on iHub Radio. Wanted to get out because I know we cut her off a little bit. Carolyn Redmond, who was our therapist in first segment, heard the phone number for the Center for Counseling and Education, where she does her work there, 760-880-4334. 760-880-4334. Again, that's Carolyn Redmond, the Center for Counseling and Education. Thank you so much to her and to Doug Grant and to Rose Millette. So now we're going to chat. We've been doing this the last few shows, and it's really fun chatting with Brian Mendoza, who, of course, has his own film show on Saturdays. And today I wanted to talk to him a little bit about his top four favorite film actors and top four favorite film actresses and why. And we're going to share that info. So what'd you come up with, Brian?
So for actresses, I just want to throw out an honorable mention to Marilyn Monroe. I own a lot of her movies, so I've seen almost every one of her movies, but we're doing 4, so I had to cut her off, even though I did not want to.
Okay.
But, and I also had to cut off Orson Welles for the men. But for the women, my 4 are number 4, Cicely Tyson, number 3, Audrey Hepburn, number 2, Ingrid Bergman, and number 1, Bette Davis.
Wow. So you went way back further than I did. There's so many to choose from. I was a little more contemporary. So I have, and I didn't rank them, but I have Jessica Lange, Michelle Pfeiffer, Frances McDormand, who I love, and Susan Sarandon. We have, so tell me, give me a couple reasons why, or a couple films why you chose some of those.
Well, with Bette Davis, I've always been a big fan of her movies, so I love her range. She can go from playing a young woman who is dying from a very rare illness in Dark Victory to being a very outspoken, but yet very, I would say, content character in All About Eve. I like how she has such great range and the way she transforms herself. She's not willing to not sacrifice her looks for movies. I love the fact that she can go ugly or she can become monstrous, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. How about some of the other ones?
Ingrid Bergman, I just think she just could capture your heart with just a simple look on screen. And I think Audrey Hepburn, she's just so lovable on screen. She's an actress that no matter how she plays a role, she's always going to be lovable, even in a bad movie. I've seen some bad movies with her in it. She can capture your heart and your attention. And Cicely Tyson, to me, is an underrated actress. She has done so much good work. I would almost say she's a contemporary of the actresses you have named, but I think she's a little older. So I would say that I picked her because I think that she doesn't get enough credit for a lot of the work she puts in film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, yeah, so Jessica Lange I've always loved, and when I was younger, I had a couple of headshots when I was much younger. When she was younger, we looked similar. Some people said, you look a little like Jessica Lange. So, but Frances, I'm sure you saw the movie Frances.
Oh yes, that was a good one.
Yeah, so I thought she was just she's amazing, but that particular really fabulous. And then she can do stupid lighthearted stuff like Tootsie too. But I think she's really got a lot of depth as an actress. Michelle Pfeiffer, same thing, can go from Grease to Dangerous Liaisons, or what was the other, Age of Innocence, I think it was.
Yes.
She's done a lot of period stuff and really was fabulous, but then silly stuff like Grease also. Frances McDormand, not a glamour girl at all, but boy, can she. I mean, I just saw, with the lockdown, I just saw three billboards.
Oh, that's a good one.
Billboards thing. Fabulous. I mean, boy, she just... Grit. I think when I think of her, I think of grit. I mean, she is just so real and raw on screen. And then Susan Sarandon, same thing, can go from glamour, Witches of Eastwick to Dead Man Walking. I mean, really range and real, just really real. You never see the cranks turning in her brain. It's just raw, real. I mean, that you just feel that her emotion is genuine, and she just draws you in. And great, huge eyes. I mean, I think her eyes really draw you in too. Okay, let's talk actors.
Mine would be, well, my honorable mention was Orson Welles, but my list was number 4, Jack Nicholson, number 3, Charlie Chaplin, number 2, Humphrey Bogart, and number 1, Marlon Brando.
Oh, okay. Good. We had one crossover, Jack Nicholson. I had Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, and Tom Hanks. Yeah. So tell me about why you picked those.
Well, I actually really love Marlon Brando in every single movie he's ever done. I love the fact that he can literally give a really moving performance without memorizing a single line. It's one of those magical qualities he has, that he cannot care for a film project, but for some reason he just moves you. Like, I saw him in The Godfather, and he did not memorize a single line, and he had to read the lines literally from the back of a cat on like little cue cards. And I'm thinking, wow, you have to have this much talent to be able to actually make me care about what's going on in the scene and for his character, and to not even and for him to not even bother putting any effort. I don't know. It's just one of those things where, even though that's not the best form of acting, like I wouldn't teach that to like an acting student.
That no, yeah.
but he can pull it off. And Humphrey Bogart, loved him in Casablanca. The fact that he is a tough man that's able to cry on screen, wonderful. And Charlie Chaplin, honestly, the ending of City Lights makes me cry so much. I can't watch that scene without crying. And then Jack Nicholson, I love his range, honestly, to go from Chinatown to Terms of Endearment to As Good as It Gets. There's a lot of range there. Even though people have this perception that he only plays crazy, he's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, Jack Nicholson, you're right, all over the place. As Good as It Gets, Terms of Endearment, yeah. And of course, A Few Good Men. I use this courtroom scene as an analogy for some of my voiceover students about making your audience feel something. You know, that you can't handle the truth. And that scene was just, I remember jumping out of my seat, and he's just intense, really intense. Same thing with Robert De Niro, of course. He's just over the top and kind of a different and weird guy, I think, in person. But when you have that much talent and you're that intense as an actor, I think sometimes, it makes you march to your own drummer. Al Pacino, I've always had a crush on. I thought, as he got older, he was much more attractive. When he was really young in The Godfather, when he played Michael in The Godfather, the first one, I thought he was more attractive much later than when he's young. Now he's getting a little old and scruffy, but I loved him in, what's the one he finally, Scent of a Woman. He was fabulous in that. And Tom Hanks, of course, can do anything. I mean, his range, again, but, the 2 Oscars he won for Philadelphia and
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, yeah. I mean, talk about different roles. I mean, talk about just, he is, and from what I understand from everything I've read, a really nice guy. Just a down-to-earth, nice guy who, even though he's, a huge movie star and has made a pile of money, from what I've read, has not let it go to his head and is still a decent guy who treats people well, from what I've read. Anyway, what's your favorite Tom Hanks performance?
Oh, if I had to go real quick, I would say Philadelphia, Forrest Gump. Honestly, those, and I'm trying to think of another one, but we're running out of time. I'll come up with the 5 next week, I promise.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you to Doug Graham, to Rose Millette, to Carolyn Redmond. Stay safe, everybody out there. We'll see you next week on The Culture Corner.